And first thing I'm going to do is roll call. I am the chair, Marlene Badger. I'm here. Paula Hancock.
Present.
Kendall Hughes.
Present.
Chris Genosa.
Present.
Frank Stevens.
Present.
And Tricia Ferris, I believe, is absent. Excused. And Andy Fitch is excused. Okay. So, we have had one resignation on the board. Kathleen DeWolf has resigned. So right now, tonight, we have 4 members, and we need a 5th member, and so I am going to appoint Frank Stevens, who is one of our alternates, as a voting member tonight. So the voting members tonight will be myself, Paula Hancock, Kendall Hughes, Chris Genosa, and Frank Stevens. Those will be the voting members tonight. Okay, please, everybody, as you come in, we are asking everyone to sign in, please. First order of business are the minutes from the June 26th meeting. Have people had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay. I will take a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve them as written.
Okay, motion by Kendall Hughes. And any questions, other corrections?
I'll second the
A second. Frank Stevens, a second. Okay. Okay, so I am going to do roll call vote on all of our votes tonight to make it clear for people. So to vote to approve the minutes, Paula Hancock,
Yes.
Kendall Hughes,
Yes.
Chris Genosa,
Yes.
Frank Stevens,
Yes.
and Marlene Badger, yes. So the minutes of June 26th are approved. We have a couple changes that we'll be making. First of all, is there anyone here from the White Mountain Country Club application? Okay. So we're going to shift things, and I believe Scott DiGiacomo, okay, for 130 Main Street, we will take your case
Oh,
up next. So, now I do want to go through a few procedures. Okay. The first part of our meeting, we had 3 applications, 3 formal applications, 3 formal cases that we need to hear. One of them has been withdrawn, so we do have 2 cases to hear. And the process, there is a specific process that is prescribed by not only our local rules of procedure, but also by state law. We do have to follow very specific procedures for hearing cases before the planning board. So these are formal public hearings. And this first one is a site plan review, case number 2024-13. It is for the building at 130 Main Street, which is tax map lot 109-073. The owner is Maurice Gaillan. The agent who will be presenting the case tonight is Scott DiGiacomo of North Point Services, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And just a couple other things to review. These cases that we are hearing tonight were posted on the town website. They were posted at the town hall and posted in the newspaper. And abutters were also notified in all of these cases. Okay. So the first thing that we do with a case is the board votes, makes a motion and votes on whether the application is complete. And what that means is there sufficient information on the application to proceed with a public hearing and proceed with a decision? The procedure then after that, after we accept the application is complete, we open a public hearing, and the process for that is the applicant presents their information. Then the board is able to ask questions, make comments, ask for clarifications if they need. And then after the board is complete with their discussion with the applicant, then the abutters to that particular property in this particular application will be acknowledged to speak. So that is the basic process. The public hearing, it's a public hearing for the board, the applicant, and the abutters. Okay. It is not, public hearing is not a free-for-all, wide-open discussion. There is a process set up by the state. So first of all, we have the application for 130 Main Street, tax map lot 109073. Do I have a motion to accept the application as complete?
I'll move to accept it as complete.
Okay. The motion was made by Kendall Hughes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. From Chris Chinosa, second. Okay, all those in favor, and again, I'll do it by roll call. Paula Hancock? Yes. Marlene Badger, yes. Kendall Hughes?
Yes.
Frank Stevens?
Yes.
And Chris Chinosa?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. DiGiacomo, is that correct?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
I appreciate you hearing it. I'm here today on behalf of North Point Services seeking to expand the footprint at 130 Main Street by 30 by 26 approximately. Expanding the footprint of the existing building attached. So it's in addition, we're looking to put 2 storage containers onto the property, similar to what's already there, but just in a different location. And we're looking to do take down some existing shrubbery and some fencing to screen a dumpster and to secure some assets that will be stored on the property.
We do have the site plan here that shows basically you're squaring out part of the building, correct?
Correct.
Okay, at the back, behind where the drive-through would have been, I
That's
believe,
correct. Yes.
since this was a former bank building. And you are adding, how many storage containers did you mention?
2. There's 2 storage containers.
Okay. This shows 3.
Those are designated for parking of vehicles, like trailers.
Okay, that's for parking. Okay,
Yes.
okay,
That's total by 60.
right,
Trailer
okay.
trucks?
And there'll be either a roll-off, like a roll-away, which is approximately 26 foot, and then there'll be trailers that are 20 to 25 feet with the pickup truck, like a heavy-duty pickup truck.
Okay. And then 2 storage containers towards the back end.
Yes, yeah, those were pushed out in that area just for the way that the existing site next door, there's some asphalt and it lends itself to people potentially driving up and having access to the property over there.
May I ask, what is the business that's going to be
It's an equipment rental and tool center.
equipment and tool rental?
Correct.
Such as,
So on the equipment side, there'll be skid steers, small excavators, chippers, stump grinders, things of that nature. And the tool center side will be smaller, tools that you find at you know, like hand tools and stuff of that nature. So customers would be coming in to do those. The larger equipment would be delivered to consumers.
Okay. Are you going to be the owner of the business, or are you representing someone else?
I am going to be an owner of it. It's for my son.
Okay, okay.
I'll own the building, and I'm going to, part of this is contingent on my purchase of the building, with getting the use and everything approved. I would be the landlord, and my children would own the business.
I'm going to turn over, I'll have some questions later, but Chris, Frank, Kendall, and Linda or Colin, any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
The containers, would they be permanently there? The ones in the back?
Yeah, permanent's a tough word. Yeah, I mean, I don't, again, I think that as we understand the use better and understand how the growth of the business goes, potentially, we may be able to incorporate the material of the tools all inside. It was more of a safety for us to ask for to get the two. I think we were just going to start with one and expand into the second. But again, we don't know the evolution of this. It's not an existing business. It's something that's going to start really small. So we figured we'd ask for the two. But
I'm
hopefully.
just thinking if they're permanent, are they within the required setbacks?
Yeah, they were placed on the required setbacks. I had an engineer take a look at it.
And my other question is just, I thought yesterday when I drove by there, I saw a sign that said the property was for sale.
It is for sale, and I'm the buyer, with the permission of the seller, be there to, as part of the acquisition. It's basically assuming that I get approval from you guys, I'll close on the building in 10 days.
Are those going to be poured concrete pads?
No, for the containers,
Yes, on the
No.
map you indicate that it is, so that's why I'm asking.
no, we weren't going to do that.
Maybe you don't.
No, they were just going to be put on blocks, like some type of a concrete block with gravel around it.
What hours are you anticipating?
7 to 5 on Monday through Friday, 8 to 1 on Saturdays, closed on Sundays.
If you're proposing to deliver some of the rental equipment to clients or customers, does that mean you also have allocated space for delivery trucks or so on?
In the area that's designated off to the left, there's 3 boxes there. That's where, the trucks that would be, that would be our staging area with the equipment ready to go. So a lot of times the equipment won't even make its way back. We anticipate equipment moving from job site to job site, but eventually, it'll find its way back to the place and be, prepped for the next customer.
So all the parking spaces, the ones that are remaining, and then minus the ones you're moving, those would be for customers?
Correct. I believe we left 16 striped parking spots for the customers.
You have a couple of security gates in
Yes.
place,
Yes, yep,
planned,
correct.
okay?
As well as there's a one on the side, will act as a screen for the dumpster that we're proposing to put in.
Okay. What will the storage containers and the trailers look like?
It's a standard Connex trailer, 8 by 40 in length. They're brand new, so they're not, they're better than what they're today. These are actually brand new units. They have multiple doors as opposed to the one that's there just has an end door. These actually have multiple side doors.
this one right here. Here we go. And you're showing a retaining wall along the side facing the restaurant.
Yes, there's an existing, it's really expanding that, and again, the existing, there's an existing block retaining wall that's there, and it's sort of not, done well enough, it needs to, needs to expand back a little bit because of the way the topography is. So we just propose to, correct it a little bit and bring it back to, hold back that, area a little better than it's been done.
So it looks as though from the street, what people will mostly see is the main building and the other stuff is set way back.
Yeah, we're gonna try to, clearly keep, some of the equipment in behind the fence. There may be some items put out for display or something, but, we're actually hoping the equipment's out for rent and, there's not much there. But yeah, we're very cognizant of, the fence, keeping stuff behind the sites, keeping the sight lines and stuff. It's not my intent to have that, 130 Main Street across the front, having them display items everywhere.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just curious, I know this is all contingent and you haven't closed yet, but in your business plan, when do you anticipate being open for this office?
I'm sorry.
When do you anticipate this being open?
Yeah, rather soon, because I think that we can, we can operate, I have a home up in Thornton, and again, we get a lot of phone calls, for existing equipment that my son has already. So most of the time, that's just in transit stuff that's happened. We inadvertently put the website out, and we've already received, multiple calls for small stuff, and those things have all been handled delivery-wise without any impact to the 130 Main Street. But I would anticipate probably there's some minor interior stuff that we want to do, clean it up a little bit, so we would probably go get our building permit and get our certificate of occupancy. And it's probably 30 to 60 days to be rather to be open, like really be conducting business in there.
Are there any abutters to this property? Any abutters to the property?
What's the address on it?
130 Main Street, it is the current Swan Lakes Plumbing Building. Formerly a bank and a couple other things back in the past. Anyone who is not an abutter, comment, question? Yes, I am going to ask through the course of the evening, if people make comments or speak, please identify yourself. Yes, there was someone back there.
I'm Anne Marie Ritchie of 22 Winter Street, and my question is fairly simple. How do you expect to or plan on housing hazardous fuel in support of the vehicles you are renting out? And are there special provisions the town and the fire department require for such storage?
So any of the heavy-duty equipment will be fueled off-site. There'll be no, we're not anticipating asking or requesting to keep any type of bulk storage on site. Those would be done in transit, as we mentioned. For the smaller garden style, like small lawnmowers and stuff, there could be up to probably 99 gallons inside of the back of the trucks, which are DOT approved and protected via that way. We're not looking to ask the town to come in and put in bulk storage underground or above.
Any other questions from the board? Okay,
Dean,
yes,
just ask a question.
yes, sorry.
Do you plan on having heavy equipment repairs done in that building or outside?
No, in fact, we will not be hiring a mechanic. All the equipment that's going to be used coming in is all brand new and it's all under factory warranty, so we've chosen a partner
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing. And now it's our deliberation. Are there any conditions that we want to set in place before we talk about whether we still will vote on whether we will approve or deny, but we also need to talk about any conditions that we would want to put in place.
Normal conditions within meeting with all plans and meeting with the fire chief, with any issues he may have.
Okay, yeah. And
I didn't get
permit, any inspection by the fire chief and any requirements that he has for fire and safety.
Got it.
And I think that would include also safety issues relating to any fuel or any spillage, all of that, you know. Yes, and also I would say all permits that are necessary for whether building, electrical, mechanical, or plumbing will be obtained from the building inspector, code enforcement officer. Sign permit also would be through the building inspector. I believe the parking spaces are already marked on the pavement there, I recall. I would say after you complete your renovations, your additions, and so on, be sure that the planning board has a final as-built plan to put on file. Okay. Anything else? Any other conditions? Okay. I will accept a motion to either approve or not approve.
I'll move we accept the application.
Okay, motion to approve the
the
application
I'll second.
from Frank Stevens,
I'll second.
and a second from Chris Genoza. Okay, and vote, Paula Hancock, yes. Martin Badger, yes. Kendall Hughes,
Yes.
Frank Stevens,
Yes.
and Chris Genoza.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, approved. Okay. We will get out a notice of decision with the conditions on it. And a copy of the notice of decision goes to the fire chief and the building inspector and other department heads so that they all get notified. And you've got contact information from the building inspector. Okay. Welcome to town.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, again, contact the planning board or building inspector can handle most anything. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah?
And just a reminder, as people have come in, we do ask everyone to sign in up here. If you have not done so, please do that. Is anyone here from White Mountain Country Club?
Yes.
Great, okay,
Oh, it's fine.
yes. Okay, this application is application.
I got it somewhere before. You wanna look at it?
Thank you.
It wasn't in that one, wasn't in the last. Yeah. I think I had it previous.
Okay, this is White Mountain Country Club. Okay, yeah. Okay, White Mountain Country Club. This is application number This is application number 2024-11 for site plan review for White Mountain Country Club at 3 Country Club Drive, tax map lot 201-002. And the agent is Horizons Engineering, who is before us. And this is for the construction of a cart storage barn and additional parking near the clubhouse. Okay, I need a motion to accept the application as complete. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to accept it as complete.
Okay. Okay, accepted, motion by Kendall Hughes, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a second from Frank Stevens, and again, roll call vote, Paula Hancock,
Yes.
Marlene Badger, yes, Kendall Hughes,
Yes.
Frank Stevens,
Yes.
and Christian Osing.
Yes.
Unanimous, okay. So the application is complete. There is sufficient information for us to make a decision and have a discussion. And I will open the public hearing, and I will first ask for presentation. You tell us what is going to be happening.
Yes, no, thank you. So, I know this board's seen a handful of projects come through at White Mountain Country Club, and I know, there's historically, there's a cart barn idea from last fall that we were contemplating, and, so that old cart barn idea has since been abandoned. It was on the kind of a far north end of the property. So that whole plan, we did a lot of work for it, but it's since been, kind of terminated. So the new idea is to build a cart barn just south of the main clubhouse. So it's about 32 by 112. It's kind of a tight little area there. So essentially, that was, I believe, the 10-hole tee box. So they are removed the kind of the time constraint there was we didn't know if we could move the 10th tee box, so that tee box is moving, so it kind of opens up that area there to put this cart barn. So that 10th tee, I believe, will be like a par 3. So this new cart barn is just basically opposite of the clubhouse from Reach Drive, and it's a pretty good spot for it. I think it's like the best spot for it personally, and so we're proposing that, and then there's some additional impervious area in front of it for like car staging, etc. And then I guess the second piece of it is that kind of new parking area a little bit to the west of that area. It's kind of like an extension off Reach Drive. Just kind of a standard little parking area with, I believe it's 21 parking spots. So yes, that's kind of the summary. We're in the midst of, we know that this requires AOT review by DES, so we're kind of in the middle of that. We prepared the whole stormwater design, etc., and submitted that, so that's under review currently. So we don't have a resolution quite yet. We understand that'll be like a condition of approval, of course, but yeah, that's kind of the big picture summary there, but I'm happy to discuss any questions or anything like that.
Okay, I would open up to others before I go through my questions.
Question. I think you said this. What's the building? What's it gonna look like? What's it made of?
Yeah, I believe we provided some kind of basic architecturals. It's like wood sided. There's a couple like little cupola structures at the top.
I think they mentioned.
Yeah.
You say about something.
Yeah, I'm not sure of like all the architectural details. We got the floor plan and the elevation. I mean, I'm not totally sure of like the color or anything.
Oh,
like
no,
that,
I was
but-
just, yeah, it looks like metal siding on a pole barn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically a pole barn,
Alright,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Approximately how many golf carts will it hold?
Oh, good question. We did some math to figure out how many would hold it. I'm sorry, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I do know that that's the amount that they need to stage. Whatever that number was, the cart barn was sized accordingly
Okay.
to house whatever they needed.
Any other questions, Chris?
Any utilities in there besides electric?
No, just electric, yeah. It's fairly simple. It's, and the doors, it might not have been apparent, but the doors are on the east and west sides. So, you know, it kind of helps with the circulation, so people come in, you can, you know, drive in one way. It's like one ingress, one egress, so, but yeah, I think it's pretty basic structure. Just electric, lighting, and charging for the carts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Frank, any questions?
On the southwest corner of the proposed building, there's a rectangle with dotted lines around it.
Yeah.
What is that?
The rectangle with dotted lines, that's the cart washing area. It's essentially a subsurface tank that is, that everything drains to. So when they're washed out, it all drains into a tank, and it can be recycled and pumped out. So it's not, it's kind of a separate thing from the stormwater design, but you know, for cart washing, we proposed a similar thing on the previous cart barn idea. So it's just basically a very isolated, self-contained cart washing station.
Yeah.
So it looks like you've taken most of the stuff that we've talked about since November and incorporated it here to a better
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've, between the old cart barn, I know we're here for the patio edition, so, yeah, a lot of things. So we built upon all of that, and I think this new plan is really good, very well thought out. And like I said, we got all the AOT stormwater design in motion. It's under review currently, so.
And the AOT, for those who don't know, is alteration of terrain.
Alteration of terrain, yeah, it's primarily a stormwater thing currently, yeah.
And that has been filed, the application was received July 2nd, 2024. And that's,
Yeah.
yes, they've received a complete application. Yeah, so it's a matter of time before that comes back. I have noticed that, a couple things, the cart barn does not impinge on the setbacks at either end, and it also stays out of the Reach Drive right of way.
Correct, yeah, those are good observation, yes. We
Yeah.
stay out of the reach drive right away, and we don't encroach on the setback. And we also accounted for the floodplain, consider we're well outside of the floodplain. I know it doesn't really matter so much for this area, but I know that's a concern generally. So,
It is a concern, yes.
Well, it looks like you added lots of details at the end about seeding the land, controlling for erosion, cold
Yeah,
weather stabilization, so there are a lot of details at the end about how to manage the actual land.
yeah, there'll be a lot of, in the future, there'll be a lot of like construction oversight and things like that with erosion control and seeding and as part of the AOT, we have to certify that it's built per plan. So we have to be out there and verify everything so it matches the plan. So there's a lot of checks and balances associated with it. Yeah.
The parking that you're adding,
Yeah.
where does the traffic go? You've left a good traffic lane through between the two sides of the parking area.
Yeah.
Where does that traffic Does any traffic go beyond that parking area?
No, not currently. Basically, the idea was to retain Reach Drive's traffic patterns as is, and we just expanded the parking area off of that. We didn't want to impede upon Reach Drive in any fashion. So we didn't, so the parking area doesn't necessarily change the traffic flow as it currently is.
So you're not changing any configuration of Reach Drive from what
Correct,
it is
yeah.
currently?
Yeah, Reach Drive is
Yeah.
gonna remain exactly
Okay.
as is, we're just kind of branching off the parking area.
Parking only to here.
So parking will go in and out, same.
Yeah, just in and out, yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know the Reach Drive configuration is a little unusual, but, I think we'll be able to improve upon it in the future, but right now, we just wanted to keep it as is and not, impede upon that main traffic pattern.
What other drainage, stormwater measures are you putting in place around this area?
So due to the grading, we have an underground system on the front, I guess, north end of the cart barn, kind of between the proposed cart barn and the clubhouse. We're, just based on like grading and conveyances. And then we have a kind of a pond, infiltration pond on the southeast corner of it. So everything's pretty well contained in that kind of development area. So it's all kind of right around there. So it's a tight little area, but we got kind of two different stormwater strategies to accomplish that.
Your EPA holding tank for the washing the carts, how large is that and where's that
I
going?
believe it's I forget where it was.
It's either 2,500 or 5,000 gallon, I'm not sure.
Yeah, whatever the old car barn was, yeah. The holding tank is totally different than any stormwater things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a tight tank that we have to pump when it's full.
Yeah.
And you'll have some coming in to pump it out.
Yeah, I
Yeah, we
believe,
generally put a limit on it so that we know when it's full.
Okay.
So, we'll have to.
I think the size is 5,000.
Yeah. And we have the same system in, not that you want to hear about it now, but same system there. It's wash pad.
One thing I have a question on the map here, and I'm not sure, I may have to ask you to come forward to explain it.
Yeah.
On the sheet C 2.2.
Yep.
Just above the cart barn, top left corner of the cart barn,
Yep.
what is that area that's in the shaded area?
Oh, that shaded area on the north side of the car barn?
Yes.
Yeah, so that represents new impervious area. We try to delineate the shading to show kind of the existing pavement, to differentiate it between the existing pavement and the new pavement. So that area, like the whole area in front of the car barn is gonna be impervious.
Right, okay. Actually, that's not what I'm referring to. If you
Oh.
could step forward.
Oh,
just a
yeah, of
minute.
course, yeah, of course.
It's this part of the diagram
Oh,
here.
yeah,
What is that?
that's the underground stormwater system.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
so all this stuff, like, all this area goes into that.
Goes in, okay,
And the remainder, this is the break line, this
Mhm.
line.
Okay, goes that way.
Differentiate it, and then all this stuff goes
Goes
there.
there. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. That- yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Alright. Any other questions? Are there any abutters to this property here? Yes, sir. Your name, please?
Bob Sullivan.
Pardon?
Bob Sullivan.
Okay, any comments?
They've been very good, yes, $2 million worth of green work done, and they've been great to us neighbors and homeowners and on that
Okay.
lot. They've no problem. I don't.
Any other abutter comments? Okay. Any other questions from any of us here? Let's see if I've got anything else.
You have a question on here?
Yes,
Hi, with the growing use of lithium batteries and even just golf carts in general, will there be any fire suppression system in that barn itself? Or even any detection system? Because if a fire starts, that can grow so quickly and just be going without anyone even knowing.
So in lieu of the detection or fire suppression system, what looks like windows on the upper, and I'm not sure, you probably may or may not have seen the plan, but it's gonna be well ventilated so that any of the gases that may accumulate can flow through the building.
Okay.
And they're always very minimal. Normally in an enclosed building where it's airtight, we do a detection system, but with an open air like that, that's not necessary.
And if anyone's not familiar, golf carts tend to catch fire not because of lithium ion batteries, it's because of the hydrogen. And golf carts, just letting anyone know that.
It's the gases that
Yes, the
build up.
gases that build up.
So that's the remedy for that is to, they'll look
Okay,
like
perfect.
windows, but they'll be open air.
And you would have the fire chief sort of check everything.
Yeah, you certainly can. I mean, you usually doesn't walk through before we occupy anything. Anyways, but we just talk to him more about that as well. But it'll be up to his discretion. The detection system isn't a ton of money. And it's not like we opted to use the open air versus the detection because of the cost. It actually, I think will work better. We have the detection system in Thornton go off a bit. And it's always seems to be a false reading. So to eliminate that issue when the constant running back and forth to the fire department, I think the open air is just a better solution for the problem.
okay. So closing the public hearing. Again, conditions, let's talk about some conditions. Probably some of the standard ones again. Obviously inspection by the fire chief.
DES approval as.
And yes, DES final approval of the alteration of terrain before you begin construction. All permits, electrical, building, mechanical, and or plumbing, anything needed from building inspector. Sign, if there are any sign permits needed, those would come from the building inspector. Parking spaces, the new parking spaces should be striped, and any handicapped spaces signed appropriately. We would want as-built plans when everything is done, the final set of plans for as-built. And then the alteration of terrain, any other conditions?
No, they're meeting DES, they're meeting the building permits.
Yeah, yeah.
I think this looks a lot better than the original.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It's come a long way, yes. Yeah. Okay, I will accept a motion to approve the site plan review.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan review as amended.
Okay, with the conditions that we just stated.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Chris and second by Frank. And vote, Paula? Yes. Okay, Martine, yes. Kendall?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So that is all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's see.
Thanks all. They're actually different.
They were different, okay,
That's why I.
okay, thank you. And a second. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. These done. These done. Okay, we've got new ones. Okay, yeah. I do have one announcement to make. There was one other boundary line adjustment case that was on the agenda. That was for tax map lot 105-046 at 72 Ridge Road for Albert Jagoda and Inga Carmola. That application has been withdrawn. And we will note that in the minutes. It's just completely withdrawn.
Did they give a reason for withdrawing?
No. No. Probably just. Now, I do have, okay, this is a little different than what we just went through. The last two cases we had were actually official applications, which we accepted and listened to a presentation, discussed, asked questions, made a decision in this case, both cases, we approved the applications with some conditions. That is a standard formal application process. What we're now doing is a little bit different. This is called a design review. This is an informal process, and it is a process that is established by state law. It is an informal, non-binding design review between the board members and the potential, maybe future applicant, we don't know. This is an opportunity for the applicant and the planning board to discuss a proposal in greater detail than in a conceptual consultation, because that's another earlier informal process. The objective of design review is to provide the board with an opportunity to understand what is being proposed, and for the applicant to understand the concerns of board members, abutters, and the general public. Design review is intended to assure that the essential characteristics of the site and specific requirements of local regulations are thoroughly reviewed and understood before the final design is prepared. So this is not a final application. This is not a formal application. Okay? It may be information similar to what we would see in a formal application, but it's not there yet. Okay? The couple other points, and I'm reading some comments from the Office of Planning and Development of the New Hampshire State Department. in their handbook for planning boards, and this is all based on state RSA, state laws. So we're following the state process. It is not a public hearing in the same sense as what we just went through, but it will follow the same, very similar format. The future applicant, or potential applicant, is going to present a lot of detail to us. We're going to have an opportunity to ask questions, maybe to clarify some of what they're presenting, to make note of some regulations that they may need to keep in mind as they develop their final application, their final plan. So the first conversation is going to be between the presenters and the board. We will then, at some point, be able to listen to some comments from a butter. Okay. But it is not an open, wide open, free-for-all discussion. It is, first of all, between the presenters and the board, for us to understand. Is also, a design review can be very complex depending on the project, and we may not get to everything tonight. We may have further questions. We may not, I'm going to have to watch time a little bit because we don't want to go till midnight. We need to be reasonable here. So we may go through some of the detail tonight. We may have to continue this at another meeting. And if we do that, it will be noted on our agendas. Anytime we will be discussing the design review details, it will be on our agenda. Okay? So that we don't. And one other thing, the one similarity between a site plan application and a design review, we were required by the state to notify abutters. So there are people here who have received official notification as abutters, and there are probably other people, general public, who are interested in the project. Okay, again, as when we get to the point of getting comments from the public, again, I will ask you to, one person at a time, identify yourself when you're called on. We need to keep this civil and organized. Okay, and if you could introduce yourselves.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carol LaSalle. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development at Lakes Region Community Developers. We are a small nonprofit based out of Laconia, New Hampshire. We're developers on the Mill Pond project. We've been doing affordable housing and community development since the 80s. The bulk of our portfolio is in Laconia, but we span the Greater Lakes region. We have almost 400 affordable, here? Yeah, is there a way you can speak up? Yeah, sure.
Please.
Sorry.
The acoustics are not good.
Okay. I was saying we have over 400 units across the Greater Lakes region. And we do community facilities. We also do new market tax credits, community development in its finest. We're here today to present the village at Mill Pond. It's a proposed 76-unit family development. It'll be built out in 2 phases, and the third phase will be that's part of the subdivision, will be 4 plots for Habitat for Humanity single-family homes. I'll introduce the rest of my team.
Hi, I'm Megan Carrier from Sheehan Finney. I'm the attorney that's been helping out with this project.
Okay.
And I'm Kevin Leonard from North Point Engineering, civil engineer working on the project.
Thank you. Okay. So, give us maybe an overview first, and then we can get into some details.
I just wanted to, since we've been working on this for a couple of years, time flies. Our first meeting with the planning board was actually August 22. We've been to 3 planning board meetings conceptually. We went through a series of department head meetings in late 2002 and 2023.
So 3 of those meetings, and we had a meeting last fall with select board. So this is kind of an ongoing project. It's not a simple project, and so we've been sort of working hard to listen to the community and the department heads and kind of gather input so that we can make an intelligent design that's going to sort of work with the confines of the regulations and do the best fit for the site. Some things we've accomplished, I just want to, not everyone's, some people have probably seen me at other meetings, other people haven't, so I'm just sort of kind of recapping a little bit. But we've had the property surveyed. When we did the survey, we realized a couple things. It was somewhat of a surprise to everyone that Mill Pond Lane is owned by the subject property. Over recent years, Mill Pond Lane was considered to be a public road and maintained by the highway department. They were plowing Mill Pond Lane. They've got water and sewer in Mill Pond Lane. And if you look at various town documents, master plan and lists of public roads and whatnot, you'll find Mill Pond Lane is on those lists because the town believed it was a town road. But based on survey research, we do not believe that's the case. We also, so Mill Pond Lane is down here. And then there's also a 50-foot access easement marked in yellow here, which is adjacent to Industrial Drive, which accesses the Freudenberg property. And it's right in the vicinity of the existing gazebo and ice skating rink on the park that we're basically on over here. We've done wetland mapping on the property to update that. We submitted inquiry to the Division of Historical Resources, and they have concerns in the proximity to the river and whatnot about potential archaeology that could be on the property. Waste Region community developers hired an archaeologist, actually did a phase 1 and then a phase 2, which included a dig to some degree, and that was submitted back to the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, and they were satisfied with the research that had been done and basically kind of cleared the site from an archaeological standpoint to move forward. We've also submitted an inquiry to the Natural Heritage Bureau, which is the agency of the state that is keeping track of endangered plants and animals, and we have no hits on the property. We met with DOT District 3 up here at the intersection to kind of talk to him about the prospect of putting a driveway kind of more or less where the existing gravel drive is to the park. And they saw no problem with that. They recognized the park had the right to be there with the easement, and essentially the curb cut kind of exists with the park being there. Obviously, we're going to have to do a comprehensive design and submit an application and whatnot. The owners of the property removed some existing fuel tanks that were down kind of in this vicinity of the property. I believe that was last summer. And so those tanks came out, and they found that there, basically this is environmental engineer's work, that there wasn't any leaks, and so it's sort of all pulled out and safely handled. Waste Region community developers are in the process of working with Novus Group as their current environmental engineer and performing an updated phase 1 environmental assessment, which you have probably shortly.
Yes.
We've engaged our certified soil scientist who works in my office to do a site-specific soil map of the property, which you need as a preliminary step in filing an alteration of terrain permit for DES, which we expect we'll have to do as this moves forward. And we've also had a preliminary traffic impact study prepared, which we shared, submitted to the board for your review. I also just wanted to point out that during the process of when we first came here and now, the tax map numbers have changed, which kind of confused me a little bit this spring when I was getting my head back around things.
They did change, yes.
So the current tax map is 110 lot 73.
Yes.
You'll see on the survey, which was done several years ago, that it is referring to map 3, block 2, lot 9. They're the same lot, but just the lot number has been changed. But I want to point it out because it confused me and so this plan, which I gave copies, all the renderings I gave copies to the board, you have to have and be able to close to get them. This plan was just attempting to show the existing conditions of the site. You have the Mill Pond Lane, and Mill Pond down here. The dam, which is owned by a third party that creates the Mill Pond, is just to the south. You got Winter Street, which has water and sewer in it. You've got obviously Route 3 up here, the park here, 50-foot easement, There's an existing green area, there's an existing wetland on the subject tract. And as everyone probably knows, the property was formerly used as the mill, paper mill most recently, and those structures were generally in this vicinity. There's not really any buildings that are intact up down there anymore, but the foundations and a lot of them have collapsed kind of in their place. And so as part of the greater redevelopment of this property, one of the things that would be tackled is properly removing all that debris, handling any environmental concerns, whether that be asbestos or other materials that might be associated with the building or the prior uses. That's why Novus Group, the environmental engineer, is going to engage to sort of assess that situation, and we'll be working as time progresses with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to figure out how to properly handle all environmental concerns on the property. That work is not being performed by my office, but I've been doing all the other permitting, which we anticipate to include DOT driveway permitting, alteration of terrain permitting. We'll be crossing the wetlands, so the wetland permit. We'll be tying into the municipal sewer system, so it's a sewer connection permit. We are adjacent to Mill Pond, which is basically is a pond, a dam version, is a portion of the Swan River. So we're going to catch shoreline. So we'll need a shoreline permit. So these are all permits that we'll be kind of navigating as we move forward. I did, I'm going to give this to the board, but I brought an aerial just because it helps see the cemetery off the northeast corner, northwest corner, sorry. The park, of course, here, and the mill pond, and the rail line coming through here. Just sometimes it helps us to see it in aerial view. So this project is going to consist of 2 applications. So we submitted two applications for design review. One is a subdivision. So this is a rendering of the whole tract. The parent tract is 28.27 acres. It's zoned commercial. Among allowed uses in the commercial zone is residential uses, including apartments. The proposal here is to reconstruct and extend Mill Pond Lane to 1,000 feet, and create 4 new lots, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will be approximately 15,000 square feet in size. They will be 100 feet frontage. Kara mentioned that the intention is in a future phase of the project that they will be developed as single-family homes with a partnership with Tennessee Valley Habitat for Humanity. And now I want to talk a little bit about Mill Pond Lane. So you're probably familiar with Mill Pond Lane. It's sort of a narrow paved street with a couple homes on it, a couple garages, and it's up against the Mill Pond. And our plan is to extend it to 1,000 feet. So the right of way, it meets local town standards, all septic meets local town standards, and reconstruct water and sewer. Well, water and sewer stuff for this to serve these homes in here. We would work with the water and sewer department to determine if that infrastructure is adequate to support an extension or whether we need to bring it all the way back to Winter Street. But we would, one way or another, have water and sewer that comes all the way into development. We'd be planning on fire suppression for all the buildings on the development. We'd have fire hydrants throughout the development at kind of allocations that satisfy the fire chief. And we are, because grade drops as you come down Mill Pond Lane and onto the property, so you're not going to be able to gravity sewer from the development or even at the end of Mill Pond Lane to Winter Street. So what that means is that we're going to have to do some sort of a pump system. We're proposing a step system, which is septic tank effluent pump. So each building or home would have a septic tank where we collect the solids, and the property owner, like anybody who has a septic system, gets their septic tank pumped as the solids are removed, and then they have a small effluent pump, which they would own and maintain, and that pumps into a low-pressure common force main. So there'd be a series of tanks that serve multiple homes and multiple structures on the development, and it would all pump to a common force main to reach the gravity sewer system, which essentially is a winter stream. Through design review, we talked to Public Works and Water Sewer Department and Fire Chief, and there's no concerns of the capacity of winter street infrastructure. However, I do recall that there's overhead utilities that runs from a pole kind of near the middle across the street here into the property and actually all the way to the dam. And that infrastructure is old and it wouldn't support what's proposed here. And frankly, it isn't the greatest location for what our kind of formal layout. So we'd be removing all the overhead utilities all the way back to Winter Street and proposing underground utilities all the way into the development. And my recollection is the electric department felt that there would probably be some reworking of infrastructure on the frontage of Winter Street specifically. Kind of haven't got to those details, but we rework whatever needed to be done to have proper infrastructure and transformers and whatnot to feed the whole development. We'll talk briefly about Mill Pond Lane, proposing as a public street, 26 feet wide, 11-foot travel way on both sides, and then we're proposing to pave a 2-foot shoulder, so the total edge of pavement to edge of pavement would be 26 feet. And one of the reasons we're doing that is it's really tight down here, kind of at the entrance by Winter Street, and you're gonna want to be able to implement a closed drainage system. So catch basins that are catching runoff at the street level, and you're gonna want that for a couple reasons. One, you don't have the space to have slopes into a ditch, because you're basically rains dropping into the river. And DES is not gonna want us to be directly sheet flowing into the river. They're gonna want us to collect that water in structures that have sumps. The sumps allow you to collect winter sand and whatnot and debris in the sumps, and that's not getting into the river. And we can also route that system to a stable outfall, likely somewhere down in here, which will all have to be permitted by all the agencies at DES, including alteration terrain, wetlands, maybe one sort of shoreline. We're anticipating a wall, retaining wall, for distance, will be on the west side, basically between the road and Mill Pond. And that retaining wall will probably have an integral guardrail installed on top of it. Again, to try to keep the section, the width of the total road network narrow to fit in kind of the corner there and impact as little as possible and stay as far away from the pond as possible. As we get kind of through this tight spot, we probably transition into some open drainage swales and potentially past the catch basins and whatnot to collect runoff in those swales and route them to stormwater structures that we're in the process of designing. I'm going to stop for a second and see if there's any questions, but I could ramble a little bit.
Questions so far?
I have one question. You said at the beginning that it turns out, according to your survey, that Mill Pond Lane belongs to the subject property.
Yep.
Yet there are some houses or a couple of garages and a house on Mill Pond Lane.
Yep.
Do they have rights of way over Mill Pond Lane to get out to Winter Street, or?
I think the answer to that question is yes. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to project that I am, but it's been that way a long time. People have been using it for a long time. The town understood it to be a public street. It's probably, legality of kind of what the status of this street is maybe debatable because of the history of what's happened. For this application, we're proposing to upgrade the street to modern standards, to meet the road standards, put it in the right of way, 50 feet wide, down closer to Winter Street. We're planning to just give you all more than 50 feet, the town more than 50 feet, because the right of way is kind of odd shaped, there's no sense of leaving this little strip of land that somehow is tied to the parent tract. And if you're familiar with Winter Street, down there kind of the belly of Winter Street, there's a bridge or retaining wall, and there's not a lot of room for the Department of Public Works to maintain or work on that. And so this land that we happen to own and it doesn't have any purpose to us would be beneficial to the town to have. And so we're proposing to give all of that to the town.
So the part that remains would remain private, so there would be a section that would remain private road?
The subdivision is being proposed as a public road. So Mill Pond Lane, we would build it to town road standards, we would construct it, meet those road standards, and then we would look to turn it over to the town. And that would sort of correct the sort of wrongs of the past, because it would put the people that thought they were on a public street back on a public street. And it would also provide the new homes we're trying to put in, with kind of Valley Habitat for Humanity on a public street, that would be maintained by the town, and that makes sense.
So the public street would go up to the circle?
Up to the circle,
Okay.
yes. And so,
But the developer would do all the upgrading of the road?
we would do all the work, that's right. And part of our, considered an offsite improvement, it's on our property, so it's improvements we're making and then try to turn over to the town after the project construction. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover regarding the Palm Lanes. Is there anything I missed that you want to add? So if there's no further questions on that, I'm going to move on to, so this is the subdivision application and kind of what we're accomplishing. We're taking the parent tract, we are putting in Mill Pond Lane, and we are subdividing out these 4 lots, which will be single-family homes. We're citing those lots, which are single-family, adjacent to other single-family properties, which sort of makes sense, right, coexist that way. And then we're proposing with the remaining tract to do a multi-family project, which is part of the next application. Bear with me. Before I go on to that, I just wanted to show this quick. So, Ashland zoning ordinance has a calculation for density on how much multifamily can be on any parcel of land. And that's based on your buildable area. So we took the whole parcel, we subtracted the right of way that we're proposing and the single family lots that we're proposing, which would be removed from the parent tract, and so that would be the remaining tract, right? And then we subtracted the wetland area and the steep slopes. And when you do that, you get 12.39 acres of remaining buildable area. And then you do the math in the ordinance to determine how many units that support, basically by right, and you get 108 units. So per the zoning ordinance, we can put 108 units of apartments up to 4 bedrooms on the property. We're proposing 76 units, so we're proposing less than the property could have by the zoning ordinance. So this overview plan is kind of showing the project in totality. So you see Mill Pond Lane, you see the 4 lots. The red line is attempting to show the remaining track, you got a little, have to see over that black line. But the remaining track is removing Mill Pond Lane in these four parcels. And then you'll see that we're proposing a private drive off the end of the cul-de-sac, kind of into the center of the development. And then a private drive, which would be a loop. In the first plan I showed you, there's an existing easement to the dam operator that runs through here and gets over the dam, so that's how they get to the property. Our plan would be, if this becomes a public street, that they have rights to be on Mill Pond Lane and Mill Pond Lane, and then we reissue them a easement over our proposed drive, so that they can come right in the drive, which obviously plowed and maintained in perpetuity by the applicant. And so it really is an improved access point, and then we build them a drive over to the dam itself, basically where they have access to now. And Sal Stephen Hubbard, who's the former real estate development director, has reached out to the dam operator. It was one of the questions we got. Oh, that's you, okay, perfect. To just sort of explain what's going on. One of the questions we were getting at past meetings is what about the dam, and are you going to come at the dam, and whatnot. And so we think we're improving the situation with the dam. So we're getting a public street to here, and then we're going to pave streets that people are living on, and we're going to construct a paved drive over to basically where you get access now. And we can arrange gates or whatever might be appropriate to do when we kind of get to that level of design. So we've got a loop, and then we got what I'm calling the north access drive, which is coming from this internal here, over the wetland, up the hill, in the 50-foot easement, which the property has the rights to use, and accessing it at Route 3. So there'll be 2 points for the property to be accessed, one at Route 3, and one down here at the newly constructed Mill Pond Lane. As Kara mentioned, this project is probably going to be built in phases. Right now, there's 76 units, even split would be 38 each phase 1 and 2. So right now we're strategizing about the idea that we build in phase 1 these 2 buildings. This building right here is a community room that's sort of common space, mailboxes, and that sort of thing for everybody that lives in the development, which is 1,600 square feet. We'd be building that. We're building this building, this building, this building. So we built those 5 buildings and the community rooms of 6 buildings in phase 1. At the time that we do that, we'd be building the road in, the loop around, and the road out. And then in phase 2, in a future year, we finish the development, or the multi-campus portion of the development with this building, this building, this building, and we build this parking lot. And then we come in and build this parking lot and a couple of buildings up there. And then we're referring to the 4 lots here as phase 3. Exactly the timing of when that happens is probably unclear at this point, but we're treating those kind of 3 phases as sort of the development strategy as we move forward. We've got 4 6-unit buildings. There are 2 bedrooms. We have 4 8-unit buildings that are 2 bedrooms. We have 2 7-unit buildings that are 3 bedrooms. And then we have 6 880 units that are scattered around the development. We're putting an even amount in phase 1 and phase 2. 2 of those are 3-bedroom, and 4 of those are 4-bedroom. And in each phase we build 3, so we kind of building sort of equity as we build up the development. You'll see that those we did turn this in, but this is a architectural preliminary of what the units would look like. We're anticipating there'll be steps as they show here, and each one of these is a pair of units, so kind of left and right. And the one thing I didn't mention is each building is planning to have a laundry room that's common to everyone in the development, or common to everyone in that building, I should say. And then, and behind that would be a utility room, so it's sort of common space for the water and sewer and electrical and whatnot to be located behind the laundry room. And then if you look throughout the development, you see this, what kind of feels like an appendage added on to the building outside of the limits of the laundry room. Those are the ADA accessible spaces. By nature, those need to be 1 story. And so you'll see the step here in the rendering. You got 2-story structures, and then you have a 1-story, which is the laundry room with a utility behind, and you have ADA unit, which is 1 story for the accessibility of the occupants. The ordinance requires 2 spaces per unit, 2 parking spaces per unit. We're definitely achieving that. We're going to sprinkle out a few extras probably so that for guest parking. We're also planning to have sort of supplemental parking down by the community room because that may be a place where people congregate or get their mail or play cards or other things that might happen in that space.
We also offer, we do resident services coordination in-house, so we offer service coordination through service providers in the area, so it can be, health and wellness courses, we do a lot of community gardens, financial planning, that kind of thing, so we offer that in the community room. We also have a resident services coordinator who will be on site once per week, a certain number of hours dictated by the state, who will meet with residents as needed and connect service with them. She will do that in the community room.
So let's slide over just to the detail of the development, just to really just show that we're proposing 22-foot drive aisles, 20-foot deep parking spaces 10 feet wide. We've got ADA spaces where they would make sense adjacent to ADA units. We also have ADA spaces in the community room because obviously we need those spaces there. We are at granite curbing, paved sidewalks, a pretty extensive sidewalk network. It pretty much gets you around everywhere. No Pond's got good scenery down there, and want to be able to people to walk around and get to it. So you could get from the end units walking on the sidewalk all the way out, kind of around the development. And we're planning to construct the sidewalk all the way up to Route 3. That creates walkability not only to the park, but also to downtown and whatnot. I parked a couple commercial buildings down tonight and walked down your beautiful sidewalks to get here, and everybody that's in this development with this activity will be able to do the same thing coming into the village. So that's the plan. Comprehensive landscaping is part of the development. We have 3 dumpsters proposed that will be enclosed. Kind of got that in zones, so we have one located here for this grouping, one located here kind of for this grouping, one located here for this grouping. We will have dark sky compliant lighting throughout the premises. We're not trying to overlight, the property, but we're trying to make it safe and walkable, in the evening and whatnot. I mentioned that we'll be bringing in water and sewer, so water and sewer will come all the way with probably a hydrant on Mill Pond Lane, but we'll continue that water and sewer all the way in, all the way down. All these buildings will be fire sprinklers, so we'll have fire suppression systems within the buildings. We'll bring the water and sewer up here over to these units. We'll also be bringing that underground utility that I spoke about from Winter Street all the way into the development and all the way up through to feed the entire development. We'll have to work with the electric department on transformer locations and other specifications and things that they require. I mentioned that we'll be using that step system, the sewer septic tank effluent pump system. So each building will have a septic tank or a series of septic tanks. Septic tanks sizes are driven by the number of bedrooms. And so bigger buildings will require more septic tank volume, and we may need to have multiple septic tanks in series to accommodate a bigger building, where the smaller building might be able to go with a single tank. But all those tanks will be owned and operated by LRCD. They'll have effluent pumps, and they'll pump to a common low pressure sewer system that'll run out and connect to the municipal sewer system on Mill Pond Lane or Winter Street, depending on how that shakes out. MRCD actually owns and operates low pressure properties with low pressure systems, so they're familiar with how they work and their upkeep and whatnot. We're planning on propane heat fuel for the buildings. So we've cited the mechanical engineer, kind of preliminary assessment of that, and thinks he would want 4 pods of propane tanks cited. Right now we've got them shown 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of scattered around the development. As you get further into design, there'll be a gas line network that'll feed likely into utility rooms in each building, and then disperse into the units, kind of from there. As the development plans get further along. I'll stop there for a second and see if there's any questions.
I have a question about the dumpsters for trash. Would the site then be responsible for removing that? I know there's been some concern about burdening the transfer station. Can you just say more about what would happen to trash?
Yeah, so we own and operate all the properties, right? So we do trash removal, we operate that, pay for that, take care of it, snow removal, all of the typical maintenance costs that we see for a building like this. So yeah.
So that's not something that the town becomes
No,
responsible for?
It would not be a burden on the town, it would be our responsibility. We'd probably contract with like waste management or Casella.
A question regarding the sewer septic.
Yep.
Is there a reason why you don't pitch them along like an interceptor and then just have one pump station to pump them out instead of doing the septic tanks?
The reasoning for that is multiple layers to that. One, if you build a central pump station, right, you need to gravity to that central pump station, right? So you need to have a long, collect all this, and obviously as you with gravity, you get deeper, 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 and then when you build a pump station, you need the storage volume and dosing to be below that. And so you're basically, and I've done them, I do municipal pump stations 25 feet deep, crazy price tags also, because you're centralizing all your sewer, by the time you're doing that, you're gonna get the generators, backup, duplication, there's lots of expense associated with, and you're doing a gravity line, which is getting deeper, 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 and it would be probably 8-inch, and have manholes every 300 feet. And so, with a low blood pressure sewer system, you can put a 2 or 3 or 4-inch force main 5 feet in the ground. You don't need gravity to work with you, so you just uniformly put that following the grade of the roads, right? You have to accommodate for high spots and low spots with infrastructure to accommodate for blow-offs and clean-outs and whatnot, so you have some infrastructure associated with that. But you don't have all that depth and all that massive pump station that the common pump station would require. And it's easier to phase. Say if we designed it that way, with a central pump station down here, and I'll put this building online, I gotta build this whole thing all the way down here, I gotta spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on my pump station just to get this unit online. If I'm building this building, I put my septic tank in, I run 4-inch or 6-inch out of the building into the septic tank, I put it by an outflow pump, which is much smaller, everything's not deep, it's up high, and I simply plumb in and I got that unit on. And so it's also better for phasing, it's better for cost, and it's a good system.
So how would it work then per unit with the septic tanks are? Because it's not just one per unit, right? It's one per building, and how do they share the cost of having it pumped?
They're on the program.
Yeah, we go with the property, so we have a budget for every property we own.
So it would be
Yes.
Lakes Region doing it,
Yes.
not the resident.
So the rental units, the residents, they will obviously be paying rent, and the rent includes heat and hot water. We pay for everything else, like
Okay.
so all the maintenance on the site, all the landscaping, snow removal, lawn care, pumping those septic tanks now, that's on us, it's part of the operating budget.
Alright,
Yeah.
thank you.
And they have they've got these properties all over the Lake Region, so they're collaborated with a property manager that is, with right?
Yes, so for this property, we would be working with Stewart Property Management. They're a very well-reputed property management company in the state. They will be doing the property management there, they'll have somebody on site who's there all week really.
I wonder if I could ask you to give a little more of an explanation. You've used the term affordable housing, and I think there's been a lot of discussion that I've picked up on throughout the town where my impression is there's an assumption that that's the equivalent of Section 8 housing. And if you could clarify the distinction, because if I understand correctly, these are rental units where pretty much anyone in town could apply to rent to live there without sort of, I don't know whether there's any kind of economic screening, but, you know, right now, as many people know, there are almost no available rental units, certainly not properties to buy. So next generations are having to move away because they can't find a place where they can afford to live. Could you clarify what that means and what the implications are for people in town who might be looking for a place to rent?
Sure. So I'll start, so affordable often gets lumped in with the Section 8 label, right? But affordable just means blanket for anyone who owns any kind of home, rental unit, 30% of your income. If you're paying 30% of your income for your home, for your rental, that's affordable to you. If you're paying more than that, that is an unaffordable house. That is an unaffordable rental. So affordable gets tossed around, right? Section 8 housing is affordable. It's affordable for some of the very low income people of our communities. They're the folks that are just scraping by, right? This property is not Section 8. It is affordable. It is workforce housing. All the people that are living here are going to be working. They're going to have full-time to part-time jobs. Both, probably if it's, you know, a two-family, two-headed person household, they're probably both going to be working. The way that we build these properties is through a vehicle called the Low Income Housing Tax Credit. It's something that the state gets allocated from federally every year. You have to compete for it. It's a competitive process. You put in an application. Only usually 5 projects throughout the whole state get approved for this. And that funding source accounts for 70% of this property, 70% of all of these budgets, right? Stipulations come with that. You build these properties to specific area median income. So the area median income in Grafton County is just over $100,000. It's the middle of the line income for folks. So this property will be primarily 50 to 60% of area median income. So folks living here will be making $50,000 to $60,000 a year per family. Some of the folks will be making $30,000 per year on average. That's the 30% area median income. We will have some units in there for supportive housing, which will house folks with mental disabilities. So it's workforce. It's people who are pouring your coffee. It's people who are waiting on your tables. I mean, there's a lot of stigma around affordable housing, but the reality is it's for working folks.
But you have like nurses and police
Yeah,
and carpenters and landscapers and stuff like that. So it is.
Yeah. It's really, it's the people of her community that need housing. And and you made a very good point. There are a lot of folks who 18, they're going off to college, coming back, or they want to 18 want to buy their own home. There's nothing out there. There's not even rentals out there. Like, where are your kids gonna live? This is where they're gonna live. This is what they're gonna afford.
What are you anticipating the rent would be? I know the units are different size, but.
Yeah. So, a lot of information. Let me see if I can look this up. Yeah, so as I said, so the area median income for Grafton County is just over $100,000. So then it's calculated off of that. And those rents are federally published by the Housing and Urban Development. Okay. So for example, these are all 2 and 3 bedroom units, right? And we're doing a few units that are 30% AMI. Rent for those properties, for those units would be $700. Rents for the 50% AMI class would be $1,193. 60% is going to be just around $1,600. And we do have some market rate units in it too. So there will be some market rate units as well. I don't know about you, but I pay close to $2,000 for rent, so like that's
So in other words, the objective is to make it affordable to rent in Ashland if you're a working person, to make it affordable to rent and be here in the town.
Yes, yes, I mean, the purpose is the affordability piece. There's so many people that are house poor, or apartment poor, and they're scraping to get by. And they're choosing between, you know, paying an electric bill versus putting food on the table. This gives people an opportunity to have more free capital to feed their kids, to pay all the bills they need to feed. Yes.
Would you be able to, at some point, share all of that data with the planning board?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah, we're in the process of putting in the application for the low-income housing tax credit for the first phase right now. Pre-application is due Friday, and then full application is due a few months out down the road. So yeah, we're working on that currently.
Any other questions? I got a little bit more that I want to cover, but let's see if there are other questions. Okay.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to focus on what I'm referring to as the North Access Drive. That would be a private driveway. I mentioned the proposed sidewalk with curb on the west side, all the way from the integrated development all the way up to Route 3. We're proposing this road to also be 26 feet wide. So 11 lanes, 2-foot paved shoulders. You need to have curb to have safe sidewalks. We have vertical granite curb on the entire west side of the development of the road coming from down below all the way up to the intersection of Route 3. Obviously, this driveway interfaces with the park and the infrastructure there. We're proposing to have vertical granite curb on the west side of that drive up to the property line, partly because there's a reasonably steep grade from kind of getting from here down to here. And so when you've got a steeper grade, it's better off to have a curb and a gutter line and those main grates that capture the runoff, opposed to having a gravel shoulder and a slope where it's just flying off kind of the shoulder kind of thing. So it's a better condition to have that captured and controlled, and then we'd be routing that closed drainage system to treatment and infrastructure that satisfies alteration of terrain. They're concerned about water quality and quantity, so making sure that we're not causing unnecessary pollution and make sure that we're not increasing runoff to some water or something like that. This has been discussed a couple times, but the gazebo is in the easement and we need to move, and the skating rink was constructed in the easement, and a portion of that structure, infrastructure is outside the easement. So, for the time being, I think we're planning to start saw cut at the easement line to be able to put the infrastructure in for the drive, and then what kind of happens beyond that is there's been much discussions in the past about how to handle that and how to call it integrates. I expect that will develop as time goes on, and we'll figure out a solution, kind of thing. You can actually about that? No? Okay. That was the little piece I wanted to just add. That's kind of the prepared notes I had. I'm happy to answer other questions. I should have mentioned that we submitted plans, we submitted for design review. We've been working kind of to progress those plans, and so what I handed you tonight is sort of today's date of where we are with plant production. So you'll notice that in those plans, there's the site plan is at 45 sheets right now. So we're working towards comprehensive design plans. They're going to have all the detailed grading and drainage. It's going to have lighting, landscaping, erosion control, all the construction details. We're working towards this, set eventually as a construction set that they could use to bid the project and solicit a contractor. And obviously we'll be filing that set of plans, final set of plans to all the agencies that we need permits from. I wanted to bring the current plans just so you could see where we're at And we're continuing to kind of move forward on design, but we're also we're here tonight to get input. And we've been doing that for a while now, and we're trying to just incorporate it all into a final proposal so that we're not reworking, stuff unnecessarily.
Couple things, you did submit a traffic study, preliminary traffic study. I don't know that we've had really a chance yet to really review that in detail. So that, I think we'll probably have some questions on that.
Of course.
I think it was labeled preliminary. Are there additional elements that you may?
So based on past correspondence we've had with department heads and the select board and whatnot, we were anticipating, there's been concern about, do we need a light here, kind of thing. And that's been raised as a question in the past. And lights aren't just arbitrarily, a town can say, I want a light here, and you just put it in. This is only not operated by DOT. If you're going to put a light in, you put it in because it's needed, and so there's what they call traffic warrants. And you have to analyze the existing traffic volume, the proposed traffic volumes, and project that into the future, usually 10 years or something like that. And I'm not a traffic engineer, so we have a traffic engineer on board, that's what they do. But they prepared that preliminary impact assessment mostly to talk about traffic, talk about the conditions, talk about what you will find in that report is what the expected traffic generation from the property will be. They're predicting 500 cars as the ADT, the average daily traffic. So it's an entire day, there'll be 500 cars coming out of here for the development. They're projecting 68 cars on Mill Pond Lane coming out of the development. And so you will find that information in there, amongst other detail. The next version of the traffic report will be more detailed. They'll do traffic counts of the volumes. They'll prepare the analysis of those warrants. So they come back and say that, to have a traffic light or have a left turn lane or a series of warrants, this criteria that DOT has says if you meet this and you must do this. We'll have the data basically that says this is what the conditions are now and projected, and it does or does not meet those warrants. And so we do or don't need to make improvements, which would be mandated by DOT if we trigger the warrant. But we're not anticipating that we will, based on traffic engineering to date in our discussions with DOT.
So we will have to digest what we did receive, and then any updates would be helpful.
If I could just ask one more question about the.
Yes.
Did I understand the preliminary traffic study to say that the increase in traffic would be in the neighborhood of 2 or 3% in terms of actual?
And if you read that in detail, it reports that the traffic volumes, normal fluctuations in traffic volumes are up to 5%. And so a project that increases traffic up to those levels that we're talking about is not a major contributor of traffic or a major problem to the traffic systems generally. And so, which is why they've said we don't think we're going to have problems. That's why DOT is saying we don't think we're going to have problems. But we are going to go through the next step where we kind of take it to the next level and say, here's the details, here's the warrants, we do or don't meet them, and then we present that back to the board. Just sort of put that to bed. DOT's not going to want us to put a light in it. They're going to only maintain it forever unless it's needed. And so that analysis will accomplish that. I guess I would say that if the board has questions about traffic, it would be helpful to get those in writing. And if there's a sense of questions, or we could arrange to have the traffic engineer here present to talk specifically about traffic, if that makes sense or when that makes sense. But if we had questions in advance, we could kind of prepare to be responding to them. Whereas if I show up, what I just shared is about what I know about traffic, which is more than most maybe, but I'm not a traffic engineer,
So how many people are we talking?
What's that?
What is your projected number of people
People?
living in these units?
Sure, so they're all 2 and 3 bedrooms, and there's 76 units. So, I don't know the math on that, but
We can work on it.
yeah, we work on that.
Other questions? can see the figures that you did, computing the density and number of units, if you could share that with us, or is that on one of the?
I don't know if I did, but I can certainly get it to you. I
Okay.
have in the past, but I get it to you.
Yeah, okay, we share that. I know that's based on our zoning ordinance and other regulations. I think we're going to need to look at impact. You've made some comments about, some discussion with some of the department heads. I think if you can give us some data or some summary of your discussions, impact on whether there's any impact on water supply, whether there's any impact on what the impact would be on our sewer system as from your structure and then into our system. Impact information on fire and safety, emergency access. Impact on, what else? School system, impact on school system. That's a big question. We do have a small elementary school. Yes, enrollment has decreased somewhat from its high point many years ago, but programs change, needs change, and so on. So I think we do need to look at impact on the school system.
Yeah.
That is a very important issue that is going to be talked about.
Yeah, is there someone in town that would speak with us?
The principal of the Ashland Elementary School and the superintendent, Mary Moriarty, superintendent of SAU2 out of Interlakes. And the principal's name, I believe, is Guy Donnelly. Here. But those, and of course the school board, I think probably you would want some discussion with the school board too. Its impact on the school system is going to be a key issue.
Yeah.
Impact on the tax rates. So I think some additional and I think we'll probably have over a period of time as we begin to study this, more questions that we come up with. Obviously, I know we've probably gone through our zoning ordinance, our subdivision regulations, and our site plan regulations, and obviously those are things that we are responsible for judging the project against.
Protection of the water.
Water protection, that the site is an interesting site. It does have, as we all know, it does have wetlands. What will be done to protect the wetlands? And or are there any ways in which we, that area can take advantage of the natural environment? Also, I think would be worth looking at.
We're proposing a natural area on site.
We requested a pre-application meeting with DES, so we'll be meeting with Wetlands Bureau and Shoreline and AOT, kind of acknowledging the uniqueness of the prior development and the remains of the prior development and how we're kind of handling that stuff. And so that's on our next list radar to do that.
Okay.
One question I did have is, what's the process last fall, working with the town administrator and the select board, we heard rumors about new construction standards being provided or prepared?
Road construction?
Construction standards.
Yes. The subdivision regulations have the standards for private roads within a subdivision.
Okay.
So that's one set of standards that you need to be aware of. There is also a town ordinance that details road construction standards for town roads. Those are on the website and of course available from the town office. So there are those two sets, and with looking at one part of your road system public, and one part of the road system private, you're gonna need to look at both sets of standards there.
I was provided what was perceived to be a draft from a select board member, back in the fall, and I went to look for the, official version on the website, I couldn't find it.
It is on, if you go to the forms and documents page,
Okay,
and I think the first section has town ordinances on that page,
okay,
and one deals with road construction.
all right, perfect, thank you.
Could I look back around with a question around this, the impact on the school system?
Yes.
Because I know that's really, as you said, a big concern. I know that information has been circulating about the current per student cost in, the town budget. It is not clear to me, and this I'm hoping the school system could help clarify, if you add students, does it multiply by that same amount? Or if you have, utilities, they're not gonna necessarily increase. So it would be very helpful to get an accurate assessment of what the increase would be. Because I think that number is something that people don't feel clear about. So that's one point. The other is, as the property owners, what is the role of property owner in covering taxes? Because I think there's a real fear that that addition to the school budget is gonna land on the other taxpayers in the town. What is the role of property owner in picking up taxes so that it doesn't burden townspeople?
Yeah, we pay all of our taxes. We pay taxes on all of our properties and have since day one.
It's a percentage.
I will say, in
It's a
relation to
lower
her current
percentage.
statement about the number that's being circulated about the increase per student, there's definitely some misinformation there. Typically, for school systems, part of that is sunk cost, right? Only part of that number is actually increased per student. The state gives subsidy to every school to cover part of that cost. So that subsidy increases as you increase number of students, and I will work on that number for you guys.
And with the and again, as a conversation with the school and with the SAU, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
So, excuse me.
Hazardous waste study,
Oh,
they've started.
yeah, that's what I was, hazardous waste, obviously, impact. And you mentioned, Novus and environmental study of the property. Can you explain a little bit about what they may be looking at?
Yep, so yeah, we're working with Novus Engineering out of Concord. So we've had them out on site, they've done preliminary, they've done like the desk review, the historical review. They did the site walk where they quantified anything that they could see visually. That's all part of the phase 1 ESA. So that gets written up. There will be a phase 2, and in phase 2 you do test pits, so you do multiple holes in the ground all over the place, soil borings, and that's just to quantify more information, so you can sort of pockmark the land, if you will, to figure out where stuff is. They have reviewed groundwater data, because there's already been a bunch of testing out there. I will say in conversations with them, what they've found so far, most of the hazardous material out there is inert. There hasn't been much impact to groundwater. There was asbestos on site. We assume it's still buried in the site. That is an inert hazardous waste. There's coal ash out there, left over from the heyday. All of that can be remediated by bunkering it. So what you do is you put it in one place, essentially, or in this case, we're talking about the old foundations out there. We have to dig those out, filling those back in with the inert material, and then you bunker over it with clean fill. And then you put a restricted use on top of that, so you can't dig into the soil, essentially. And then a lot of the spots will be paved over anyways, for have buildings on it. So in many ways, it's actually a large improvement to what's going on out there already. I know there's been questions about kids growing with their ears, but the reality is there's evidence of kids being out there already, and things are sitting out there sort of uncontained, right? So we'll be containing all that and making a safe space.
It would be helpful to have a summary of what has already been done
Okay,
over the years,
sure.
for the previous owner, or whatever, summary of what's already been done
Yep.
and what has been found, and then update as the process with Novus proceeds through.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. At this point, I'm going to ask if there are abutters who have a comment or a question. What I am going to ask is, do you identify yourself? If I begin to get the same comments over and over, we may shift so that other people have a chance to make comments. But it is the abutters first. Yes.
My name is Sarah Stoke. I'm not in favor of this project. I do own a property abutting that would be affected. I just have some facts, and fortunately for you guys, I just finished my financial school management course. So, and all of my numbers come straight from the Department of Education website. Whew. Okay. So, right now, Ashland has the 6th highest tax rate in New Hampshire. Okay? Which means we are paying a lot of taxes right now. Per the numbers, looking at your apartment buildings that you are presenting us here, in a 2-bedroom unit, there would be about maybe 1 to 2 students living in that apartment building. In a 3-bedroom unit, you would have 2 to 3 students living in that building, which means we'd be adding approximately 129 kids, 130 kids or so to our school system. Out of those kids, taking that 129 students, dividing it by the 13 grade levels, including kindergarten, because Ashland does have a kindergarten program, that would be adding just under 10 students per grade level. That would be increasing the size of the elementary school by almost 90 students. The rest of the students would have to be tuition to Plymouth High School. They are not, for your knowledge, even though they are part of SA2, they do not go to Interlace, they go to Plymouth Regional High School. The average cost per the DOE, which is the number that's floating around the room, is $24,050.05 per student per year, which is about $1.8 million that as taxpayers we would have to make up. Right now, out of the students that currently attend Ashland Elementary School, there are 62 students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, which means that their families would probably qualify for this low-income housing, or this affordable housing. So the affordable housing, if somebody is going for affordable housing, they can't afford regular housing, we would add another 80 kids or 90 kids to that number. On top of that, this is just in general, there are special education services that the students would have to receive. There is a rising population of English language learners. So for those of you who don't know, that means they don't speak English as a first language. They require additional assistance to learn the curriculum. And in some instances, if they cannot read the English curriculum that's provided, the school has to buy additional curriculum materials for those students to learn. You would need to hire additional guidance counselors for mental health awareness in these situations. all my quotes here. We have, right now, per $1,000, we are paying $17.34 per thousand assessed on properties. Right now, $9.34 of that is going towards the school. And those are my concerns. I want to know, this is really going to affect our community. It's not just building this, oh, here's a piece of land, let's throw some affordable housing. Well, I can tell you, I am a landlord, and my apartment's considered affordable housing under your guidelines that you're using. And I just think adding these in, we're forget about the roads, forget about, like, let's look at our community. That's what's important, that's what makes Ashland special, is this community. And according to this plan right here, I feel like we're lacking the educational community behind. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. And your name again?
Sarah Stope.
Sarah Stoke.
Yep.
What is your address?
We own 85 Main Street.
85 Main Street?
Yep.
Okay. Abutters, who were notified as abutters.
Yes.
Yes, sir?
I'm an abutter, I own 85 Main Street, my name is Zach Stowe.
Okay.
In addition to what Sarah had said about the school, which is a very big concern of mine, I feel that Ashland meets its burden of supplying low-income housing to our community already. And I feel like it would be an additional burden to the residents asking by bringing this in here. I feel like this is going to divert traffic, even if it's only their 500 average daily cars directly right next to the ball field where there's going to be a lot of children. And I feel like they haven't adequately addressed removing the skating rink that lots of people use in the winter. My big concern though is what's going to happen at the school. A lot of points that Sarah just made, but if we're pretty much looking at almost doubling the size of the school, are they going to need to build a new school? Where is that going to happen? What's that going to do to our tax rate? And we're already paying more than half of our property tax to the school as it is. And are we going to be proportionally paying that based on how it's assessed for this project? I don't know how they're going to, the new stuff that they're putting in is going to be increasing things a lot more than what everyone else is paying. Are we going to be picking up their bill? I know they say they pay their taxes, but is our taxes going to increase dramatically because of what they do?
Thank you. Yes. Mr. Smith.
Madam Chairman, my name is Tim Smith. I reside at 47 Winters Street and own the building at 39 Winters Street and am an abutter. I appreciate the presentation and the work that's been done so far and the thought that seems to have been put into it. But I have questions in a couple of different areas. Specifically, traffic, hazmat, which has been addressed to a degree, protection of wetlands, and taxes, which has been addressed to a degree. So let me just ask, there has been a traffic study done. I look forward to seeing that. I look forward to seeing all this work in detail and reviewing it, if that opportunity can be something that the board will allow. I'm a little concerned, how wide is the property from your property line on Mill Pond Lane to where the bank goes down?
I don't have that specific answer, but we own the real estate all the way down to the wetland, right?
I understand that.
And
It's-
Should I ask these questions?
I think what he's asking about is the width of Mill Pond Lane.
Not exactly. So 26 feet of pavement, you said 50-foot right of way. I'll tell you, from your property line, it is, there isn't 50 feet of flat ground there. So my question is, will this require a taking of private property to accomplish what is needed to meet the standards?
We don't have those rights.
You do not have this.
So the answer is no.
Okay, so you can fit a 50-foot right away, and I'm just asking.
That
You can
would be-
design it, you can build it. So that's why civil engineers have a job. So
Okay.
we're gonna have a retaining wall. Where it's tight.
We already have a retaining wall there, which is true, right on the bridge. So, which could have impacts on the waterway there. All right. Another question about traffic is that your traffic study says there are 500 cars going out onto Main Street and 68 cars coming onto Winter Street. I'm wondering how that was decided.
We need a traffic engineer to answer that question, but what I can generally say is this is gonna be a modern, wide access right up to Route 3. Most people on Route 3 with the traffic study are trying to go this way, right? And that's based on existing traffic data. So people are not gonna come down to here, up the hill. This intersection is terrible. Because you're out to here, you got the multifamily on the corner, you're more in the village, and so the traffic congestion is a little bit,
Okay, so I'm interested in the traffic study and talking to the traffic engineer about that. Because it seemed to me that the front entry really was becoming Mill Pond Lane in the scenario. And it seems like you're telling me that's not what the case is at all. Your front door is the easement. So, let's see, the low income tax credit, how, what percentage of your tax burden does that relieve you of?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What percentage of your tax burden does that low income tax credit relieve you of?
Oh, okay. Okay, so, none.
None.
So the low-income housing tax credit, the tax relief actually goes to an investor who invests in the project. So you apply for the tax credits in a competitive round. If you win, you get allocated a certain amount. You can then take that certain amount of tax credits and sell it to an investor. And it's a lot like a mutual fund, retirement mutual fund, right? Investors will come into a mutual fund and you should invest in a mutual fund. It's very similar to that. So that is very separate from our operating budget.
Okay.
Very separate. Yeah.
Because in addition to schools, there's also emergency services.
Yep.
We
Yeah,
have
no,
other-
there's no relief of taxes. We pay taxes. Yeah, the tax relief is in the investor end. We don't pay.
And a will be
It's a good
sold
answer.
on.
And then, let's see, and then the hazmat. I know that I'm glad to hear Novus is on board. I've worked with Novus before. However, the MTBE case is still open on the DES one stop.
Yes.
And I know, having walked that site for over 12 years, there is other stuff on that site, and it's not, I'm not certain there's such a thing as inert hazardous waste.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
yeah, we're
so I'm
anticipating
glad
some
that
surprises.
Novus is on board.
Yeah, it will get cleaned up. I mean, whatever we find, will have to get cleaned up. That's the bottom line.
All right, so I'm very interested in seeing the detailed plans and traffic study.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Bartlett, and I own the hydro at the Pond Lane. And I just wanted to express my full support for the project. information from the applicants, and given that shows tremendous good faith. And they've also taken into consideration some of the things we've expressed to them, and so, yeah.
Other abutters? Those who received abutters notices? Yes.
Yes, and Yvonne Downs.
Okay, Yvonne Down. Okay.
I have a whole bunch of questions. I think you addressed some of them.
Now, and if I can interrupt just a second, there are going to be a lot of questions, and we won't necessarily be able to answer every question tonight. Obviously, they are taking notes of questions that we all have, so sometimes some of this will be coming back in future meetings, but go ahead.
Okay, so we will have the opportunity to express our concerns, and everybody that has concerns will be, those will be addressed by the board, so.
Yes. This is part of,
Right,
as, yes, we're getting some of the questions and concerns out now tonight. This is, as I explained, it's a design review, so it's not a formal, we are not making any decisions as a board tonight. We are not making any decisions, yay or nay, half yay, half nay, not at all. They will be addressing some of the questions. So we have some of the questions they hear tonight from you. We will be continuing discussion, and eventually they may or may not, that is their option, to come back with a formal plan proposal. Okay, go ahead, Yvonne.
So I know in the past, it was, we talked about the EPA cleanup, and that was my other concern, and I wanted to know if we would have the design, or not the plan, the report. Also, like the DES studies and report, and I'd like to be able to obtain a copy of that and the plan and how this is going to be addressed, and what the impact the environment is, including the breaking ground. I also, first of all, I really want to point out that you came to my house and talked, and we were told that this was approved, that you bought did you buy?
That you were
Okay, so
moving forward,
that's
starting in the
exactly
fall.
what you said, that you bought the property, you owned the property, and that it was already approved. And so I just wanted to get that out there, because I'm not, I'm not trusting anything that's a lot of what's being said. So actually seeing these reports and knowing, what the costs would be. I just also wanted to say, you said that, the building is, the whole project, the cost is like 70% federally funded. You mentioned tax credits and housing, urban development, credits and government kickbacks and not to mention all the services that is going to provide these people, because I know that they'll need a lot of services in their house, but that's still taxpayer money. I'm sorry, it needs to be said, that's all taxpayer money. It might not be, anyway. So, and then also regarding the retaining wall, ESA, test pits, hazardous material, erosion control, you need water weight management system, all the cleanup costs, it just goes on and on and on. And all I can say is, hey, wow, this this is massive. Why such a massive cost to taxpayers and impact to our community? Right there, like, it's not, oh, we're gonna build this. I mean, retaining walls, I mean, I can't imagine the debris or just the building on Mill Pond Lane, which, by the way, I do own those two sheds up right there. It's 25 feet of road there. You're gonna go over on the other side, the banking's right there, you're gonna bring in more fill. The wetlands is also a huge expense, huge. It's awesome, and I don't understand why that sort of development can't just build something that would be a little bit easier. So.
And have more resources for the good.
Exactly. So, yeah, again, all of this sounds good, but it's completely unclear. I don't know if we have engineer, or, I mean, how can we even
Okay.
look inadequately? It's just, it hasn't been addressed, and it needs to.
Okay, I'll address a couple of your points in a minute, but first.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify, so we do not own the site is still owned by Mill Pond Associates. We have an option agreement to purchase the property, in which we will execute that, upon which we have all of our grant funding in place. So we don't own it yet, and we have not had approval yet, we're here. We're still in the design phase, so we're moving forward, hopes for approval. So just to clarify.
Nothing, and just to repeat, nothing has been approved.
Nothing
has been approved at all.
Oh, and the fall timing piece that you mentioned, that is for the big grant application that we're putting in, that's in the fall. So if everything went smoothly, we would try to start construction in the spring, but that's if, all the funding falls into place and everything goes, so.
This is not a fast project. Also, we will work on, there are going to be a lot of documents coming in on this project, a lot of information. And it is all public information. There is nothing that is hidden. So we will work out a way, and it may take some doing with maybe the town website, we will work out a way to make this information available as we get it. Give us a little bit of time to work that out. It's going to be a lot of a lot of information. So as we get, for instance, the traffic study, I have a PDF of it. We can put it up. We can make it available. Other studies, other information. Eventually the Novus report is public. Will be a public document. None of this is done in secret. Okay.
Will these blueprints be available on the website?
We will work out a way to do that. And knowing that things will change. This is not carved in stone. And again, we always have to remember this is just a first and a run through to see what it looks like. Okay. Any other comments from abutters? I do need to deal with the abutters first. Yes, you. Yes.
Can I go up
This
to the map?
yes.
My name is Sheila Braley. I live on 14 Mill Pond Lane. So I live right here. The road is not very large, and building a retaining wall right here around I'm not sure how far it's going to go. There is so much vegetation and so many critters that cross from here to go over to this wetland that you are going to disturb. And I guess, I'm not sure if that retaining wall will allow them to cross back and forth. I mean, there's deer, there's bear, there's moose, there's eagles, there's 50 species of birds, there's otters, there's beavers.
all in this area that could potentially be disturbed by what is proposed here. And I guess I just want to make sure that there's something in place that is going to protect all of the species and the wildlife that is in that area.
The endangered report, is that gonna be made public? You said that you contacted for endangered species, plants. Can we see that report?
Whatever we are provided, we will make available.
Well, I'm just asking him if he can provide it to you.
I'm happy to. It's an application you have to submit to the Natural Heritage Bureau, which is in Concord. They have experts that are tracking endangered species across the state. And they basically respond in one of two ways. They say, you have hits in your area and we have concerns about X, Y, Z. Could be a zebra mussel, it could be some plant, it could be small rural begonia, or whatever, right? If there are hits, then we have to hire experts to assess those specific species. Are they there? Are we impacting their habitat? That sort of thing. We made an inquiry to the Natural Heritage Bureau, and we got no hits for this site. So and I have a response from them that basically says that, and I'm happy to share.
Yeah, but what acreage, because eagles are endangered, and so, I mean, I've seen eagles over my property, so.
No problem.
Okay. Any other butter comments? Mr. Wood.
This gentleman before me.
Yep, my name is Rich Brindley, live on Mill Pond, Maine. Have the same concerns about the school and our political systems and whatnot. I have concerns about, as you said, 68 vehicles utilizing that road to access Winter Street. That also has where your cul-de-sac goes to the other buildings, so the tenants could tentatively exit Winter Street. It's not blocked off, it's direct access. There's nothing saying or nothing to stop them from utilizing Winter Street. So I mean, just hypothetically, just 68 vehicles going in and out of that little road on a daily basis, I see that as a problem. That's a huge flux of people. I live on that road. I've lived on that road for 30 years. Guess what? I see like 1 or 2 cars a day. To put 60, 100 a day on that road to access Winter Street, as you said, it's blind on the top, so now it's already bad enough that we line up now to exit and wait to get onto that road. Now you're gonna add another 100, 150 vehicles a day to do the same damn thing. And another thing was, you keep saying that you pay all your taxes. That's great, you pay all your taxes. How much is this development real estate dollar going to represent when it's all said and done? What would be the retail value?
Talk to the assessor and find out.
We'll figure that, cut that out.
Okay, so let's say, just for the heck of it, call it $1 billion. Just for numbers. Tax rate in Ashland, $17, $18 per thousand currently. How much are you gonna pay of that? You're not gonna pay 100% of that, are you? Because we do as taxpayers in this town. Whatever our house is valued at, we're paying that 17, 18%. Don't stand there, please, don't stand there and tell us, oh, I pay my bill 100%, because you don't. That is a lie.
I can get you that number.
That is a pathetic lie. Yeah, you pay your bill if it's $50 or if it's $100. Granted, you do.
Okay, I think, Mr. Greenlee, your point was made. Okay. Any other butter? Yes.
Anna Maria Gander from 22 Winter Street. I have a couple of questions. One, can our electrical system, which is owned by the town of Ashland, handle the electrical demand here? Or is the substation that is up off of, was it 132, going to have to be expanded at our expense? It's another one of those impacts that you need to consider and present to the board.
Right, that will be on the list of impact information that we need.
2, do you have to cross a road across the wetlands? Why not split the 2 projects up as they are, by phases, with 2 separate roads? One, to prevent Mr. Gridley's comment about 100 to 150 cars, leaving it only those 4 houses or 4 buildings on Mill Pond Road, and preventing an immense impact on a wetland that cannot take that. You cannot build a bridge across something without disturbing a great deal of area on either end of it. There have to be abutments, there have to be standards by which the bridge is supported. It's got to support an awful lot of weight if you're going to do your construction as well. That's an immense structure that I don't think is the least bit necessary. And from the structure of the site, would lend itself to two separate phases, as you've described, but two separate roads to accommodate. And I think that analysis is something you really need to undertake. By the time you consider the cost of building a bridge across a wetland, you've probably put this whole project in the toilet. That's an outrageous expense. I'm very, very concerned about the state of the wetland, and that's where that concern comes from. I'm also concerned that you're not going to be able to prevent fertilizer runoff into Mill Pond itself or into the other wetlands. People like their lawns, they like them lush, they like them green, and they want somebody mowing them 24/7. The noise alone is going to absolutely drive Mr. Grimley right around the corner. There isn't a corner to go to. We haven't addressed the noise issue for the entire development, never mind the noise of its construction. You can say you can start in the spring, but when are you planning on finishing? 26, 27, 28? In a two-phase project, it could be 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years of construction. I hope not, but the noise alone and the dust alone are two huge concerns for those of us who live within spitting distance of this. We don't get any tax relief from living close. So there's a whole lot of other impacts that I think the board needs to sit down and look at very, very closely. Can we afford the water? We mentioned that already. Can we afford the electric? Can we afford the sewer? It's a pump-up system. Are we going to lose our paid campground septic systems that come down Winter Street every day? They're pump-out systems the town makes money on. Do we lose that money in order to provide you with enough area in the existing lagoons for this particular development? Because if we have to expand that waste management system, we are now into billions of dollars we don't have and can't afford. We just got reassessed. I don't know about the rest of you. My $150,000 house went to $253,000. $100,000 after we've owned it for 3 years. Don't ask me how we can afford it. It's a huge problem for all of us here. That's all I got for today.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other abutters?
Chuck Joy, 51 Street. Just how come no senior housing?
The senior, very briefly, the senior housing was proposed. They proposed smaller, slightly smaller units than what our regulations require. Our regulations require 750 square feet for a senior unit. They were proposing slightly smaller. The zoning board heard the case. That is a variance process that goes to the zoning board, and the zoning board denied the variance. And that's where it ended.
Anecdotally, across our properties, sir?
Sir?
I will say anecdotally, across all of our properties, about a third are seniors in the multifamily buildings. So we have, other multifamily properties across the Lakes region, and about a third are seniors.
Okay, I am going to, 9 o'clock now. Those who are not abutters who have comments, it would be helpful if we hear some new comments. I think we know what all the concerns are. However, if we can keep it brief. And first.
Okay, so I know people have been worried about the school, so instead of just
getting numbers and guessing. I actually went and talked to Mrs. Moriarty and Donnelly and Dana up at the SAU office to get the exact numbers. I have a handout if people would like to see it with the exact numbers, because it will tell you how many teachers they will need with the minimum amount of students, like one student per household. So we did it that way. It is gonna be high. I've got the papers behind it, so if anybody would like them to look at, I give them to the planning board. If you guys would like them, I can do that as well. Another thing, one of the things I have a concern about is the ballpark, because you're gonna take away the chunk of the ballpark where anybody can park. We have a lot of sporting events with children and families that come a long way. That's the only place they can park. I've seen where the line is gonna go. It's gonna go real close to our backstop for baseball. So there will be no parking at all. And if you are going to put some kind of sidewalk up there, I mean, I just don't know how that is gonna work with a baseball field right beside a road. Also, there, for Winter Street, you said that you wanted to turn the road over after building it, correct? You want to turn it over to the town after building it?
Mill Pond Lane, we built public road standards.
No, the one off Winter Street.
Mill Pond Lane.
Sorry, yes, the one off Winter Street, Mill Pond Lane. You want to turn that over to the town afterwards, after you build it.
Yes, to your standard, town standards.
So then you have to maintain it, and you would get pay less taxes because you're getting rid of that much property, correct?
There's people living on the street.
I understand
It
that.
should be a public street.
It was a public street.
It was a public street, look at the town
I always
records.
knew it was
Okay.
owned by the
My
office
But the
association.
question is that what the plan was? To go all the way up to the Rotary, not just the area where we have people that are living now?
Right.
Okay. Now, what else is the other thing? Oh, if we're talking about children and how many we're gonna have at the school, and we're getting rid of the area they're gonna play, how is that helpful? Can you tell me what part of that plan, I mean, it's a great plan, it's great buildings, what part of that is gonna help the town of Ashland?
Provide affordable housing.
The people that are in Ashland have houses right now, so you gotta bring people in, but is any part of that gonna help us? Because I know you guys have a formula that you use for your taxes, so you're not gonna pay the full amount. So we're gonna have to make up that difference, and if people wanna look at this, this is just the school, is gonna be over $1 million each year. And that is just for teachers, just salaries. It has nothing to do with if we have to add on to the building. And I did have the fire chief and there as well, because he's gonna have to go through all the buildings and see the sizes of the rooms to see what needs to be made bigger. And there's also on here how much it costs to send kids to Plymouth. There's a sheet on here everybody can look at. All that information, I got it right from the people who do it.
Thank you. Does the town own an additional piece of property?
Please, we need to keep one at a time. Yes.
I just have two questions.
Yeah.
Your name, please? Laura Chulak. My first question is, what other communities in Grafton County have been considered for this?
All of them? I mean, we look at property all over the place.
But why Ashland?
Because it's a clean
It's a
site,
beautiful
needs
community.
redevelopment.
It's a blighted site, it needs to get cleaned up.
It's close to the village, it's walkable, it's close to the highway.
Why
Because
not
it's
a
a
town
portion.
that has a commercial tax base to absorb the cost to the taxpayer? Why not Bristol, Plymouth, Lincoln? Why here, where we already have an overpopulation of rental property? Why Ashland?
For the same reason you live here.
For the same reason I live here? Definitely not. Not the reason I live here. My second question is, I must have missed the part about how this property that's zoned commercial and industrial is now being pitched for residential.
It is zoned rural residential and commercial. Both of those zones allow residential properties. It is not industrial, so.
Okay, well then the plan that's been passed around is not accurate.
No, it is commercial, it's kind of split, it's partially rural residential and partially commercial.
I'm gonna work towards the back,
Okay.
way back.
Hi, I'm Samantha Leahy, I own 21 Highland.
Your name again, please?
Samantha Leahy, I own 21 Highland and 43 Winona. I have first a comment. My wife is a police officer in the lowest paying department in the area. We are above your income, so please do not say police officers could live in your housing. We are above your income, just on her income, let alone mine as well. So I just do take a problem with that. I have worked for the fire department in our town for 7 years. I've been in public service for over a decade now. I don't know how many people are aware, but the town of Ashland does not transport. During the day, we just recently started transporting because the town of Plymouth tripled our transport contract. So people in town who are very smart are paying attention because unfortunately there's only about 5 of us in this town who sign up for call shifts at night. There's about 30, so 2 per night that need to be filled. I'm telling you right now, we're tired, we're exhausted, but we're doing our best, we're happy, we love doing the job. I cannot imagine adding another 76 units to this town would not greatly stress us out. I'm sorry, no one's signing up to be an EMT for $14 an hour right now. It's just not happening. We do it because we love it, I'm happy to do it. I understand the chief is always very happy to give, but I don't think we can continue to strain. It costs a lot of money to have Plymouth come and do our transports. Plymouth does their own, they do ours, they're second for the town of Kimpton Thornton, they do all of Holderness, and they do Rumney as well. There's only so much they can do, and if we strain more onto them, our contract is going to get higher. And they are doing our nighttime transports because we, as Ashland, cannot fill those call shifts. We can't, there's just not enough of us. So I can't imagine this would help. Secondly, again, I have been to all of these meetings. We were told that if they could not get approving for the senior housing, that this project would be kaput. So I have a bit of an issue when we're told one thing and then something else happens. Because now we're getting a whole new project and it isn't. I also am frustrated that we're told with the survey that there were underground tanks, they were removed, but there's no mention of the large amount of barrels that were found with the survey, the pile of 5-foot debris that was found as well, and other things that were found. Those were just kind of just not mentioned. That were found
Party out there.
Oh, I'm aware, but it's just why was that not mentioned to the group as well?
I can speak to that.
Because I got a copy of the survey.
All that stuff is on the survey. That is an environmental engineer issue. They have an environmental engineer hired, not this group, to manage that. That's what the phase 1, which you just spoke about, is doing, is assessing all that information. We're not hiding from that. It's a different professional that is handling
It just feels like we're getting bits of information. Like they'll be like, oh, they found tanks and they removed them, and this and that. But there's I have a copy of the survey. It's large sections of this property are full of it. And there was just, you mentioned all kinds of other stuff about the survey, but no mentions of these huge sections of buried barrels, of piles of debris. And the only reason I found this was because someone left it in my door.
It's all available to town. We're not hiding anything.
Well, you're not mentioning it to us either. You're mentioning the stuff that was cleaned up, but you're not mentioning the stuff that's still there.
That's when we issued the phase 1, all that'll be shared.
And in the fall, when you were here with the person before, all she said is there's only coal ash there. There's barrels.
We don't have all the information.
You did. It was August 23rd, 2023 this survey was done, and you were here in the fall doing this. So you did have the information. You chose not to share it.
It's publicly available, it's on one stop DES.
So you did have the information.
We will make sure that things are available. There is a, okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm Arlene Stowe. So my question goes to what the estimated property taxes that the project as completed would be to the town, what they would be paying to the town, basically what their property tax would be. And comparing that to how much the increased tax burden would be on the town of Ashland. And in the increased tax burden, we need to consider having to possibly expand the school costs, the police, fire and safety, the water and sewer, the electric, the road maintenance. All of those pieces are going to cost something. The welfare. But if we take all of that increase and all of these things that are going to have to change in the town of Ashland, that's going to be a pretty large number in my book. And that's really the tax burden that we're talking about falling on us. So I'd like to see that comparison. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney.
Starting now off.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. I'm Bob Turner, I live on Thompson Street. My wife and I are taxpayers in Ashland, coming up on 30 years this year. And this is our forever home, and we love it here. We would like it to stay as it is. I am a former member of the legislature for 14 years and a member of the town of Ashland Select Board for 3 years, so I got a lot of government experience, and I know what you're dealing with. And I appreciate each and every one of you. If you have something before you, it's going to be the most important thing you're going to do with this job. This is going to take a lot of your time, a lot of your thought, and a lot of your consideration. So this is something that's serious. These folks have outlined to you what their concerns are, most of them which I've already written down here. But I want to bring a few points up for your consideration. I'm not going to ask any questions to the developer. That's your job. We already talked about the schools, and I think everybody has understood the actual cost that we're talking about for the school system. Because $24,050 per student, or potentially, with this is just 2-bedroom apartments, of only 316 children possible. That would be, I have it written down, and disappeared, about $3 million. That's just based on the facts of the numbers that we're spending right now. Taking into consideration Ashland population, it's 2,000 people. 40% of our population is under the federal guidelines of poverty. So already we're supporting a huge population of people that go over the poverty. So they talked about the water and sewer, all those things. Those things will haven't developed. We, it's my last term in the select board, I was being back and discussing building a new police station. Right now, our police station is inside the town hall. The insurance company that insures the town has told the town, we don't get the police out there and put them in the proper building. They don't think they can insure us anymore. That's a big problem for the town. Big problem. We need a police station. So we get some things we have to do in our infrastructure. How are we going to do that if we're going to bring in potentially 400 more people? Potentially. We didn't talk about real estate value. And I'm sure that you have real estate person over your board and explain all that to you. This is going to have an impact on real estate in town. One of the things I wanted to mention to you is that we talked about the environmental issues that are occurring at that site. You should demand all of the paperwork and all the reports from the BDS so you can see it yourself. Don't just take their word for it. get the papers, get the reports, read it. And then you'll know that that's what's played out. I have copies of all this stuff. There's asbestos on that property. We have 55 different homes buried on that property. I have documents, documented talked to people who used to play down there when they were kids. They told me about the cold water and stuff leaking out of the gutters. I can't believe it's that clean. There has to be environmental impact statement outside. You talked about 3 dumpsters. 76 units. I take 3 packages. I go to the dump twice a week. There's just 2 of us. 3 dumpsters can't handle that. Workforce housing? The only time I'm gonna go to work, the only place that hires is like 3, people don't have business. We don't have any place to go. So there's some things you gotta think about. This is gonna be a huge impact on the town of Ashland. And I've seen this movie before. I moved up here from down south in the Derry area. I grew up in Salem, New Hampshire. I went to school in Derry, Salem, and then I moved to Derry after I got married. I lived there for 40 years. Derry had 5,000 people when I moved there. You know how many people live in Derry now? 35,000 people. And what did they do? That's what they did. And they let every one of them come in. And the taxes is the percentage. Yeah, I've seen it, I've been there, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Your name?
My name's Tracy Blanchard, and I reside at 47 Mill Street. First, I just want to kind of get it out that I'm totally against this project. I think we have enough units in town. So just this afternoon, I've been stressed about this whole meeting for 3 days, thinking about all of this. Okay? So what I did today was, I'm just going to take a little drive from Mill Street up through Main Street, right to Highland Street, went just above the gym. Turned around on School Street, came out by Lisa's place, took another left on Main Street, went back down to Mill Street, went down Mill Street, took a right on Glove Street, went around Winter Street, and came back to Church Street to my place where I live. I counted 32 buildings and about 130 apartments just in this little frame. I'm willing to bet we have 400 apartments in this town, which makes more than Uniston Lakes Region owns. I'd say we've got our workforce housing, So that's why I'm against this project. There's many, many impacts to this project. Now, if this project is going to be submitted, and you're going to keep coming back, my question to the board is, does the town have input on the design of this project? Because I can tell you there's going to be a lot of pushback on the number of units. I agree with the 69 cars being dumped on Winter Street. That would be a nightmare. And we already have a lot of traffic problems in town. We have a lot of speeders in town. And if you add more vehicles to this town, more people are going to be speeding to get out. And so we're going to have issues to deal with in this town. So that's another reason why I'm totally against this. Again, are we going to have input if this is going to keep coming back on the design? In other words, is this the final design? Because I will tell, sir, I'm a civil engineering designer, and I have been for 30 years, and I respect what you're doing, but I really feel that this is being pushed. This is really being pushed down our throat. That's how I'm feeling. And I've attended many, many planning boards and been in many, many projects. So anyways, that's kind of what I'm getting, and that's all.
Can I clarify that?
Yeah.
We've been at this for 2 years.
I
mean, this is a slow-moving project. This is like getting lots of input. This is slow. We're not pushing anything.
No.
We're here to get input and do it right.
I understand, but I got the feeling by your presentation tonight, you're all ready to submit in 6 weeks, but I've got issues with the design. Nobody wants to look at the housing right off the bridge down, and why do you have to cross the wetlands? Why can't you tuck that little, reduce the amount of the units tuck them in behind the cemetery there with a big fat tree line and a buffer, and just leave the little habitat and, you know, kind of keep the area kind of pristine down there. That's horrendous. That is just horrendous. And we don't need this many units. So, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A few more, and then we're gonna call at night. Just kidding. Yes, sir.
Don Stokes, Leadville Road, Ashland. Clearly, we don't want you. We want you to go away. Planning board.
Tell
us how you really feel.
Excuse me. Mr. Stone. This is to be a civil discussion.
Well,
I
that's
will
true.
not, no.
That's obviously true.
I, no. It's enough. Yes, sir.
Sorry, my name is Reed Stoke, I'll try to be a little more civil. I was just gonna say, these guys own 400 units in Laconia, affordable housing, mostly in Laconia. Do we want Laconia as affordable housing units here? Do we know, Laconia's full of crackheads and drug addicts.
Okay.
Hold on, that's not fair to anybody.
Just
That's an unfair comment. Period.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I am going to call the meeting to an end. This is not going to be our last time looking at the project. This is not going to be our last time asking questions. We, as a board, have a lot of questions. We will have a lot of detail to go through, even just at the design review level. Much less when it gets to a regular proposal. There is a lot of work ahead of us, a lot of information we're going to have to deal with. And our meetings are public. Public meetings, you're welcome to come to meetings. Okay, one last thing, yes.
Kevin Tebow, I'm the town's building inspector. If you want documents from any government agency in the state of Massachusetts, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, that's where you're from.
Right. I should be in bed right now. Contact the agency and make a 91A request for the information you want. They have to provide it to you.
I am going to adjourn the planning board meeting now. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.